Sawadee krap.
Sawadee krap. Welcome very much to our international conference, World Mindfulness Forum. And can you see the audience here? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I can see you.
Yeah, you can see me, right?
Oh, yeah, I see you.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Can you see the audience, right? Okay, so I already introduced you to the audience. Now you can start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I hope that if you don't hear me, that somebody will interrupt and tell me to stop and start again.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll continue.
Yes, please.
And let me say before I start that I was just caught the end of the last speaker and also the final question.
Okay.
And it's a very important area. And if we get time to discuss this further at the end of my talk, then I'd be very interested to have a little more discussion on the
That would be very nice. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, it's wonderful to be invited. I was originally invited to attend the conference in Thailand, and I would have loved to come. We do often work in Thailand and we love this beautiful country and the wonderful people, especially the Thai people there. But we couldn't come because we were moving house. In fact, today I'm speaking from a new apartment in a new city, in a new country, and a new internet connection. So I hope everything is working. And perhaps I'm feeling a little bit closer to understanding living with impermanence in this moment.
Okay.
But I'm honored to be invited to speak to you, and I really hope you're all having a wonderful conference. I want to say that I'm not a Buddhist, but I really appreciate the gift of Buddhism to the world. The beauty of the commitment of the Buddha to understanding ourselves and to exploring the human condition, and the people in the centuries that have followed the Buddha with this commitment of continuing to explore the understanding of the human condition is so much needed in the world today. It's in a world where we're all moving so fast and where we see such imbalance in the world. I would like to share with you some slides at this point. Can you see this? Can you see the images?
Not yet. No.
Okay, just coming. Let me try again. Now?
Yes, we can see now. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you. So I will continue.
Yes, please.
Just looking at the inequality and imbalance that we see in the world today, all around us. Obviously, the economic inequality with a few rich people and many, many poor people living side by side. And you know, this imbalance we see in our mainstream education systems around the world, that we really feel as an imbalance of mind and heart. And looking at it this way, because we know that as a human species, we are very powerful. The wonders of technology that's allowing me to speak from my room now in Valencia to you there in Bangkok. And the incredible ability, for example, to land this remote craft on the planet Mars so far away. This is an extraordinary human capacity. We are technologically very clever species, but we're not so clever as we know when it comes to sharing the planet with each other. And we're not so clever when it comes to sharing the planet with other species. We know that the planet that we live on is increasingly feeling fragile, or at least our existence on it is seeming more fragile these days. And we know that our planet and its future is in the hands of the children that some of you are teaching and that we are teaching in our schools around the world, that they will soon be dealing with very complex challenges. And these are the children I was teaching in my middle school in Prague, the children and teachers. And sometimes, you know, on the first day of the year, we would spend some time just doing activities and just trying to really get to the essence of what is education, what is a school, what is the purpose of spending all this time together. And sometimes I would say, you know, when you think about it, a school is just a building with a bunch of adults and kids. together. And so in that sense, the important question is, how can we best spend our time together? And, you know, education is so busy these days, we need to keep asking these deeper questions about what is the purpose of learning. And these questions can help us prioritize where we want to put our time and energy and consider what is it that really matters, what really matters to us. And sometimes to answer this question, I like to ask parents especially, but also teachers, school communities, another question. I'm going to ask you to think about this yourselves for a moment just now. If I ask you to bring to mind the image of a child, just any child that you can think of in this moment, any child that you may know, a young child, and allow that image to come clearly into your mind. And then to see what comes up for you when I ask this question, what do we really want? What is it that you really want for this child? And you may have a number of ideas, words, phrases, but just see if you can allow one word or phrase to just bubble up and come to the top. When I ask you again, with this child in mind, what is it that we really deeply want for them? Thank you. So could I ask you just to call out to the MC there, any word, it's in Thai or in English, what is it we want for our children?
From the audience or from me?
From the audience, yes.
From the audience, yes,
any
of
words
course.
everybody can call out.
He's asking, what do we really want from the audience? Can I have hands here? Anyone? What do Lily want? What do we really want?
Happiness and peace. Happiness and peace.
Can you hear that? Happiness and peace. Anyone else?
Security.
Security. Yes? Please.
Happy Date Day.
Speak Thai นะ
Happy Date Day
นางอาลัยพรหมชนะผู้อำนวยการโรงเรียนสตรีวัดมหาพฤทธารามในพระบรมราชินูปถัมภ์
From Putharam School.
บอกตัวเองได้ ใช้ตัวเองเป็น
A child can tell what he or she wants, see what he wants, and can be safe from whatever happened to them.
The children, yes, can tell
Okay,
themselves.
thank you.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you for those ideas. So to be safe, to be healthy, to be happy, to understand,
yes,
to be able to
thank
make
you.
wise choices. All these things are so important.
Right.
And these kind of answers are the same things that we get around the world when we talk to people. Do you see my screen?
Yes, it comes back.
Okay. And so, yes, you can see these words coming up. These are the same kind of ideas we get. Doesn't matter what religion, what culture, what class, parents, adults, we all want these same kind of deeper qualities for our children. But our question is, how do we get our schooling, as the last speaker was trying to show, to more closely give children a more daily experience that gets closer to these deeper qualities that we want for them? So, you know, we know that consumption around the world is getting out of control and that it is unsustainable. And we know that it's not necessarily making people any happier. We're aware of the huge rise in anxiety and depression around the world. Leading cause of ill health these days are mental illnesses. And we know that many children in many countries are already struggling with anxiety and depression too, at university level and at school level, even at primary school level. We know that our young people are not getting enough sleep. And we know that they are very pulled by many distractions in the world. And, you know, there's so many distractions for young learners these days, these weapons of mass distraction that can pull our attention through the internet in all sorts of different directions. It makes it very difficult for young people to focus sometimes. And, you know, we can all get wrapped up in technology. It's not just the young people, adults. I know that it's difficult for me to put down my phone, to not check my emails. I know that it's in my biochemistry. It's designed to be that way, in fact, by some very clever technical designers. So if it's difficult for me at my age, what is it like for a 12-year-old girl who's been on the screen already for 4 or 5 years to really step back from technology? And not just because of technology, but also, of course, because of the pace of modern life. We're all moving so fast. And so, you know, for this reason, for others that you all know so well, that it's so important that we bring into our schools a greater focus on understanding ourselves. How does my mind work? How does my body work? How do my emotions work? How do these things work together? How do they sometimes trip me up in life? These are such key areas for our young people to be able to explore, not something that should be put as a side issue in school, but actually something that is central to the institution that's charged with bringing up and helping young people mature and develop. And the gift of mindfulness offers so much in this direction. Now that we have scientific validation of what happens when people meditate, then I understand the concern about the shallowness of some of this and how we bring it in. And I would like to come back to that as we go through. But in fact, because we have this interest, we have this opportunities within schools these days to try and shift the focus of our mainstream education to go deeper into really connecting with what it means to be human. And this is not a new idea, this seeking of balance, trying to get more balance of heart and mind, you know, as the ancient Greeks said as well, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all, according to Aristotle. So we have these precedents, we have this understanding, but in schools these days, most of them, unfortunately, are very good in some analytical and critical areas, but they're not so good in the areas of the heart and the emotions and understanding ourselves. And we know where this comes from. We have an education system that is still very much rooted in an industrial mentality, in this factory approach. And we have so many progressive schools that show us a way forward, and alternative education, different systems to look at to help guide us away from such a simplistic view of learning and to help us develop balance in our young people of mind and heart, but also of body. And if we really want to improve the health and well-being of our school communities, then we need to focus equally on mental health, on physical health, and on emotional and social health. In fact, if we want to help young people, we want to be able to see the whole child in a holistic way and to help her and her peers to be able to deal with the complex challenges that the world is facing. We need to help her develop all of her human capacity, the full range, not just narrow range that for historical reasons has been decided is the area that we're going to focus on in schooling. So we have to shift the focus of schools. In our work around the world, we are trying to help schools begin to see more through this lens of well-being. The concern is not with academic results as the top priority. It's with the growth and maturation and well-being of the young people and the adults in an educational community. So our questions are often, what role can mindfulness play in helping develop well-being in this context? And also, why is taking care of ourselves such an essential factor in promoting well-being in our schools? How can we help teachers be more mindful of themselves? So our foundation is really learning to be mindful. And this can help us to teach more mindfully without ever talking to children about mindfulness. We can not even use that word. It's just because of how we are in the classroom. And then some people, yes, will then find skillful ways to deliver at the appropriate with the beauty and depth of mindfulness as it progresses. And I just want to show you a very simple way that we introduce mindfulness to schools in the West, especially. We do focus especially on attention, but also on emotional regulation and on building self-awareness. And of course, all of these can help young people and teachers to combat and deal with stress. But especially we're hoping to help them to find ways to flourish in their lives, to live life more fully and more deeply and more connectedly. And as the last question, we know from our work that young children in schools take to this very well. These children in school in Wales are choosing to come in and spend 10 minutes in silence doing an activity together during the lunch break because it feels good and because they really get something from it. We know to deliver it to teenagers, though, is a lot more difficult and to adolescents. And so, for example, here, the Mindfulness in Schools project in the UK have developed an approach they call puppy training, and helping children to really understand that the mind is like a puppy and needs firmness and discipline, but also kindness and especially practice if we want to help ourselves to become more focused and aware. And a simple way that we use, actually, to introduce this to our communities of young people, I'm just going to try with you now, if that's okay. So if I could ask you, this is something that comes from the Mindfulness in Schools project, and it's just a simple way to introduce attention beginning to young people. So could you just have your hands free for a moment if you want to try this with me? And what I usually say to young people, you know, if you feel embarrassed, don't worry. I won't know whether you're doing it or not. You can pretend to do it and be thinking about something else. We just want to give you this experience. So would you be prepared to have your hands free and hold them up for a moment for me? Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to count 3, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to clap all together, although there will be a time delay, on the 1, 2, 3. Clap quite hard, just so you can feel it. Don't hurt yourself. And then leave your hands in the air, and I will just guide us for a moment as we go, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Now hold the hands out in front of you. And you cannot look at them, just see if you can feel them. This is what we would do with young people. Can you sense your hands from the inside?
Yes.
You close your eyes if you want to, or just allow yourself to not look at them. Can you feel the stinging or the tingling from that clap? How does that feel? Is it changing? What other things are you noticing in this moment? So we can let one hand go down, keep one hand in the air for a moment longer. And again, not looking, close the eyes if you're comfortable, refocus. How does that hand feel now? Maybe the stinging is fading away. But maybe you're noticing other things, any sensations of lightness or heaviness, of warmth or coolness, humidity or dryness, any tingling or fizzing or pulsing, anything that you can notice, just being curious, like a scientist, exploring. What is my experience right now? If you'd never seen a human hand before, just based on the information you're getting in this moment, what shape does it feel like it? Thank you. Okay, so letting both hands go down. And just for a moment, perhaps, just ask somebody next to you, find out from them, what was their experience in that moment? What did they notice? Anything that you noticed. And to be honest, if you spent the whole time thinking this is a stupid thing to be doing today, that's okay. Just whatever came to your mind or your experience, just share that with somebody near to you. Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a time limit. Of course, in a classroom situation at this point, I would ask the students to maybe share a few things, and being aware that there's no wrong answer to this. Maybe you experience boredom, maybe you felt tired, maybe you felt sleepy, maybe you felt alive. But whatever their experiences is, we are beginning to just open up this door of understanding that it's interesting and to build this curiosity about our experience in the present moment. And as we do this, and sorry, I'm just going back to sharing my screen. We also, of course, recognize that this is the beginning of training, and we focus with attention training at the beginning. But even at this early stage, we're bringing in the idea of kindness about our experience, that we are learning to bring a certain kind of quality of attention. It's true, you could train soldiers or thieves to be more mindful. But in fact, it's not mindfulness, we believe. It's only mindfulness if it has this attitude of open-hearted curiosity and warmth and kindness. So right from the beginning, we're helping young people to be aware of their inner critic. And the research shows that some of this training is helping students in secular schools to learn to be less self-critical, to actually be kinder to themselves and to other people. It's a crucial element in this, what we do. And of course, this applies not just to our young people, but also to the adults in the world. In the UK, there's a lot of interest in mindfulness in education, in the prison service, in other areas of life, in health as well. And some of our colleagues have actually trained up MPs and Lords, politicians. 186 politicians have so far taken an 8-week course in mindfulness for themselves. And of course, some people say, well, how come you got Brexit? Well, that's probably another story. But the truth is, many of them speak openly about the benefits of this in their own experience and understanding of what this can bring a lot to society as well. But as I was saying, the true benefit we feel is bringing it to the adults in schools, especially. The idea that we can become more sensitive as teachers, we can use this training. Because what we want for our children, we need for ourselves. We may want them to be better behaved, and we may want them to be more sensitive. And we can only really explore this as we begin to explore it for ourselves as teachers. And as teachers, of course, it's a very stressful occupation. This could have been me at one point in my teaching career. It's a bit like me, it's not actually me, honest. But we bring this idea of the oxygen mask principle that, of course, you want in a difficult time to help the children you're with, but the guidance is first to take that breath for yourselves, because that is how we can take care of ourselves and then go on to help other people. So self-care is a critical point for us in our work with schools and school communities for teachers. Learning compassion and self-compassion really is at the heart of the work that we're doing. And again, it's this gift that mindfulness, I believe, is bringing to us, ways to help teachers to become more whole, deal with stress, but also to be able to enjoy their vocation more directly. And this then helps many people to go on to teach more mindfully. When you bring this engaged sense of training to them, then we begin to see that how we teach is just as important as what we teach, because of the way that children learn. This aspect of teacher and their sensibility and presence in the classroom is so important. Teachers learn to bring this greater awareness of body cues and sensitivity of what's happening. We can tune into their emotions more directly and into the emotions of children in the classroom and the class atmosphere. And this is supported by what we know from studies in social neuroscience, as well as from meditation. That we look at this book from Louis Cozzolino, for example, that brings together all the learning that we can find about human learning, human experience, evolutionary psychology. For their students, to make them feel physically safe, important skill for teachers to develop. And because, it's because the evolution of psychology and understanding of human learning shows us, of course, that the true value of learning comes through relationship, because of the way that human beings learn from infancy of human learning. And at this point, we have so many young people who are in need not just of teachers who have good academic knowledge, but also teachers with good social and emotional skills and intelligence. And again, the attachment theory and evolutionary psychology helps us understand that young people who lack some social skills are often picking up those skills from teachers. And the more that secure a teacher is in their own understanding of themselves, then the more they're able to help students, even indirectly, without even knowing it. And I just want to close, if that's okay, and unless I'm interrupted, I think we've got time for a very short video. And before we play the video, just for a moment, just to tell you that this is a short video about a soccer player in the UK called Ian Wright. Ian Wright was a young person who struggled a lot in his early years, had a difficult relationship with his father, and had a lot of problems in his own social emotional skills. But he had a really good primary school teacher. And one day he was making a film about football, and the director of the film decided to surprise him by bringing his primary school teacher, Mr. Pigden, to come and meet him. And we're just going to see a very short moment when these two people meet. And just even if you can't hear the language, I think you'll be able to see a lot just from the body language between these two people when they meet after such a long time. So if you could go ahead and play the video now, if that's okay.
That's okay. Yes, you can go now.
Ian's still the highest scoring striker ever to play for Arsenal, and he owes a lot to the man who first taught him to kick a ball, his old school teacher, Sid Pigden.
As I haven't seen him for, 23, 24 years, and so he would now be expecting me to be 6 feet under, I would think. I don't actually think, he probably won't recognise me because he won't believe it's me. Hello, Ian. Long time no see.
Mr. Pigden, you're alive.
I'm alive, he says. How are you doing?
I can't believe it. Someone said you was dead.
As you see, I'm very much in, and I'm so glad you've done so well with yourself.
He was so supportive all the time. He kind of like had me as his kind of like special guy. I don't know what to say. God, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. You know, now I realise how important he was in my life. The first main imposing figure, male figure in my life who was trying to guide me on the right road.
how far are we going back now? 40 years, 30 years
easy,
anyway.
Easy, 30 or 32 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So even perhaps at this distance from Spain to Bangkok, from my living room to the conference room, hopefully there's a sense that we can share here of the power of that connection between teacher and student and the importance of that relationship. You know, that Ian Wright, he went on to become a mature human being mainly because of that relationship that he had with his teacher. So teachers who are able to bring sensitivity, emotional awareness and presence and compassion and kindness into their classrooms can do so much to indirectly and directly impact the children that they are teaching. And this is a picture of Ian as he's a well-known media star in the UK now and a wonderful person. And when we show this story to teachers, we also want to be very careful to say, this isn't about being perfect, because we all think of all the mistakes we make as parents or as teachers with our children. It's not about being a perfect teacher with perfect white teeth. It's not that. It's actually about it's about connection, not perfection, how connected we can be with ourselves and with our students. And I think it depends on the country you're working in, but in many countries around the world, education is valued very highly, but teachers are valued perhaps less highly. And some schools value teachers highly, some less so. And sometimes teachers, we don't value ourselves highly enough either. But the truth is that the work that we do is powerful. It is important. The work that we do has a deep impact on the learning and, in fact, the brain development of our young people. We are actually described as neuroscientific sculptors by one person because of the way that we organize the brains of their young people. And we need to value our teachers and support them in the important work that they do. And then we can begin to shift the focus of our schools to be more centered towards social emotional areas, effective areas of learning. And we do this first in ourselves, the message of teachers that we give. This brings an impact into our teaching. This can impact our students and then our schools. And just to finish on this beautiful quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, that happy teachers change the world. You know, when I first heard that, I was thinking, I'm not sure that's so true because, you know, we can't be happy all the time. But now I really get it. When we as teachers are as well as we can be, taking care of ourselves as best we can, then we are modeling self-care for our students. We're helping them to learn to take care of themselves and to take care of each other. And, you know, of course, if ever there was a time when we need young people who are caring and able to take care of each other and of this planet, then for sure, this is it. So.
Okay, thank you. You have Thai language also. Professor Kevin, will you take the answers from the audience, right? Q&A. He's still in the, right? Yes? Can you put his face back on the screen, please?
Put them back on.
Yes, please. Not my face, his face. Can you hear me, Kevin? Yeah?
I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. You came back. Now, it's Q&A questions, if you don't mind.
Sure. It's not so easy for me to.
Okay, you come back. Can you hear? Can you see the audience now?
Yes, I can.
We just lost you like 15 seconds. So now Q&A question. Please raise your hand and state your name and country, please, if you have questions. Yes, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to raise a question. My name is Sok Bun Thuen, Chief Division of Higher Education of the National Buddhist Education. I am from Cambodia. Before I raise the question, I would like to say something that related to spiritual and material world. As you mentioned about the previous slide, you talking about the world are imbalanced. It means that the spiritual and material. In Buddhism, the Buddha talk about mind and body are interrelated with each other or interdependent. Body or matter must be independent of the mind. Mind must be dependent on the body or matter. In the real practice, the secular world, I mean that the secular people always interested in the materialism, but spiritualism is fall down. That's why make the world imbalance and crisis in the world. If I don't understand about your presentation, you talking about material and spiritualism. We want spiritual world and material world must be balanced in the world. So, based on your experience, how can you educate the adult student to be interested in both material and spiritual world? How can you educate them? And thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. I think I got the question. The sound is very difficult at this end, but if I'm right, you were asking me about how we can bring a spiritual dimension into this teaching with our teachers in schools.
Actually, we want to be in balance in the world to be in balance. So how can you teach the adult or student, based your experience, to be interested in both spiritual and material world, to make balance? To make balance. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a deep and important question, and isn't it? It's difficult in the West. We separated religion from education completely, and for some good historical reasons actually as well, that makes sense in many countries. But there is something missing, something quite deeply missing. And I was just at a meeting when I left Prague, the city I was living in. We had a gathering of people from around the world under the title of the soul of education, different experts from different fields to talk about what is missing in education. And we were talking about the soul. And this was actually brought about by a conversation from the Minister of Education from Bhutan, Professor Hawidel, who brought up the idea of a meeting in this area. And we had a wonderful 3 days talking about all these things. But for me personally, the deepest experience for me over those 3 days was not the content of what was spoken about or the ideas even. It was actually the example that was brought by the presence of this professor from Bhutan, because he had such a beautiful presence, and the way he spoke and everything he said, his quality of being, had an impact on many people in that session. And so I do believe that in some senses, if we're helping adults to open a door to self-awareness and self-understanding, and to what gives them meaning and purpose in their life, and to reconnect with the joy of teaching, that we are actually helping, perhaps indirectly, but to bring more spirit into, more aliveness into our teaching, to help teachers to be in balance first, because I think we're all out of balance, we feel. And it's only by stopping and exploring and having the courage to be present with difficulty as well as enjoying lives that we begin to develop our own spiritual sense, I believe. And we can bring that to each other and to the children that we work with through our own example. So that's why we feel that starting with ourselves and our own presence is the beginning of a door for some people. We may not use the word spirit material, but in fact, we are opening that door for people to begin to explore themselves and to connect with themselves and each other on a deeper, what some people would call a spiritual level.
Yes, thank you very much for the answer. So the next question from the audience, please. Please, Venerable Hansa. No? Okay. I think we ran out of time, Professor Kevin. So thank you very much for your time, and have a very wonderful in your new house.
So thank you very much. And could I just say for that previous question at the end of the last speaker?
Yes, of course.
So we understand the concerns, especially in the West, about what we call mindfulness, that it's making a lot of people money, that it's too quick, too easy. But we have to start somewhere. But we have to, how we introduce this into schools is so important. The quality of the teaching, the way that we bring it in through the quality of the teachers themselves is the key in our understanding. Otherwise, it will go too quick and will become just another thing that dies away and doesn't mean anything on a deep level. So we do understand that problem.
Thank you. We hope to see you again in Bangkok and welcome you in Thailand. Thank you for that.
ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ